welcome. I'm Laura Rogers, and this is SharePoint Power Hour, and we have Joelle Jobson here. Say hello.
Hello.
This is Power Hour, something that we've been doing for a couple of years now, 2 or 3 years at least, and it is we're not developers. We're not talking about anything complicated, but it's all just out of the box things you can do in SharePoint, Office 365, and we've expanded to lots of different Office 365 topics. And it's just the fun part about Power Hour is that it's live, and it's that, whatever happens, happens. And sometimes my demos are made up as we go. And we're having this conversation in our Slack channel, iwmentor.slack.com. And you'll find the link if you've never joined Slack. You have to actually request to join the team in there, and then we send you invitation and all that. So the link to it is in the description of the YouTube video and is in the description on this streaming on Facebook. So today's topic is we've had a couple of weeks of a break. We've been really busy getting ready for our Power Apps class that we're teaching next week for 4 days, but we've been really just immersed in that lately. But today's topic is going to be some new improvements and updates that have been made to Microsoft Forms. And we did do another Power Hour about Microsoft Forms, just introducing it and going through kind of what it is and how it works. So today's Power Hour is going to be about some of the latest innovations in Forms and some things that have changed and some improvements that you can look forward to that are coming out. Because it's kind of a competitor to Google Forms. That's kind of it's not like an InfoPath or like a Power Apps at all, but it's more like Google Forms. So, but they've been improving to make it, and it's useful for certain scenarios. It's not useful for everything. It's not like something that you're going to build a travel request system or any kind of advanced app in your company with, but there are improvements. So that's what we're going to go over, and we're going to go over how you can use Forms in different other technologies, like in Teams and even in Power Apps. So I might have time to do a Power Apps demo of how you can tap into Forms in a Power App. It's like mind-blowing, right? So did you know that, Joelle? Did you know that you could do that? Sort of.
I just saw that. Yeah.
It's not, anyway, we'll see. All right. So everybody come say hello over in the Power Hour channel over in, it's like hashtag Power Hour over in the Slack channel. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And I guess, I might not see if people have questions and stuff. So Joelle's been trying out Forms too, and she's going to be chatting. We're going to talk through things and talk about your questions and all that good stuff that we always do. All right. Share my screen and go ahead and we'll look at Forms. Let's see, over here. All right, so now I've got Forms on the screen, and so we're going to talk about just more of a recap right now of what Forms is, and then talk about some of the newer stuff. But for those of you who maybe didn't see the other Forms Power Hour, we'll just do a quick recap. Forms is a one-way, this is the important part, one-way form submission. It is not a form you fill out and you edit later in the same form, or it's just people submitting information one direction. So Forms can be something that it can be done shared externally, it can be shared internally, you can have anonymous responses, you can do forms that are, have a lot of different fields. You can do quizzes. It actually has quiz scoring, so it's got a lot of different capabilities. And so you can see in this recent group, Forms is something new we'll be talking about. But I've got, a couple of forms in here. I'll just show you real quick what it looks like. When you create a form, you give it a name. Let's see, feedback form. So that's a good example of something that you could probably use these for a lot, would be in your organization having a form that's maybe on your SharePoint site where you're collecting people's feedback about your department or about the site, and you want to they're just submitting that information to you. So you give it a name, you add some questions, you pick what type of question it is. You have choice, text, rating, date, ranking, and Likert. I've never seen that word in my life, by the way. Joelle, do you know what a Likert is? Is that like a liger? Anyway.
Actually,
Okay. So, okay. So, what type of feedback? And then you say what the options are going to be, like suggestion, criticism, idea, and you can say whether they want to be able to pick other. You can say whether they can do multiple, whether it's required. And you can even you can shuffle the options. So that's more of like the case for when you have a quiz, because you want the answers to the question choices to appear in different order, maybe different times. So that when they take it, it doesn't look the same for everybody. So you can keep adding questions. I'm going to add a start date. Like, like your company start date or something like that. And then add another question. I'm going to do a ranking. How do you rank these? Right? And you've seen those before where people drag them up and down. And again, I'm just doing these really quick to have just some things in there. Ooh, okay. And this is an example of something that actually did exist in they're still there, those surveys. So there's this little, when you're creating a list in a SharePoint site, there's still that little survey template, and this kind of thing kind of existed in there, but it was a little awkward and clunky. But that's what this is. So that's going to have this whole big, like a table of information. So rank the following. So dislike, sort of dislike, sort of don't care, you get the idea. And like, that is called a Likert, apparently. Tip of the day. That's a word of the day, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you can add multiple statements and people can answer those. Okay, so then you also have your theme, and your theme can be one of these little cheesy ones that are very kind of goofy looking fake corporate themes, or you can add your own. This is really interesting. So like if I'm a pharmaceutical company, I can just go search Bing or something. It just searches Bing, and it lets you go pick just, this is your new, look at that. See, it puts it as your template for the back of your form. But you can also go in there and I just trash that, and you can upload your own. So you can go pick one just from your desktop and go get one there. So those are your options for the actual theme. I don't think that those were in there last time we demoed this. I'm just going to put it as, yeah, I like that color. It's a good color. And then I can preview it, and this is what it looks like when people are filling it out. Let's see, put a date in here. And look at how cool you can drag these like that. And then rate the following, and submit it. So now that's the one-way submittal, and then I can even see what it looks like on mobile when I'm filling it out. Then you have some settings. So anyone can respond, only people in my organization. You don't want to record the name if you want it to be anonymous. And you can even limit it so that people can only respond once, especially if you're doing some sort of metrics on it. You don't want like the same person to be like voting for the same thing over and over and over, right? And then accept responses, start date, end date, shuffle questions. And so these are all just for the questionnaire, whatever you're asking itself. Like make sure that maybe people can't, if you want people to start answering the questions today, and then after a certain date, you don't want them to be able to answer questions anymore, even if they still have the link to it. And then whether you want to shuffle the questions and email a notification of each response too. All right. And then I can see the responses. So I can see that this is that one time that I responded to it, and it says how long. So all the responses you're getting, it's going to say the average time that they completed, that they took to complete it. And then I like the way if it's a choice, it actually gives you a little chart, just like SharePoint surveys did. And so again, this is how these all look when you're looking at the responses. I can also open this in Excel. And Excel is going to be one of the things that we'll talk about where they made the improvements. So I'll go ahead and just show you what that looks like. So this is where, especially, if you want to do metrics on what the responses were, then you can just pull it into Excel and be able to really kind of, I don't know, maybe sort and filter, do graphs and charts and anything more advanced that you want to do with all that data you're collecting. And
Hey,
then
Laura.
yeah.
So, this is probably one that like people who did not see our last session may ask or be curious about. But the question is this a replacement of InfoPath? What is your opinion on?
No. And that's yeah, exactly. That's a great point. So, and I think that maybe that's why we had such a drastically large amount of people hits on that Microsoft Forms, that first Power Hour that we did, is because maybe people were hopeful that that's what this is. This is not that at all. And the main reason this is not a replacement is that it's just one way. It's just a one-way submission. It's not anything that you're going to be able to go open and look at later. The only way that you can look at this is by collecting it. By default, it's in a spreadsheet. In my last Power Hour, I demoed how you can have these submissions go straight into a SharePoint list. And I even demoed how the requests that people submit to join Power Hour, those, I actually built that Microsoft form during Power Hour, and everybody kind of tested it out, but that is a Microsoft form, and I showed how I made it go straight into a SharePoint list. So, could you could you put a link to that last Power Hour about forms just in the little chat, just so people have it?
Sure, the last one from the last time we were live.
It's just called, I don't know, SharePoint Power Hour Microsoft Forms. I think that's what it's called. It's from a couple
that
months
one.
ago. Yeah. All right, so now I'm going to talk. So I'm not going to cover the same stuff that I covered last time. So I'm going to try and show you some of these new things, especially. So let me hit Forms Preview again. This recent group form. So what the heck is that? All right, so let's go over to SharePoint. Dan agrees. No, it is not a replacement for InfoPath. Yeah. Okay, so here is a modern page, and I'll go ahead and edit that. And let's do use the Microsoft Forms web part. So it's right here, and I could also search for it like that. And then this gives me the ability to click New Form from here. All right, so what is this going to be called? This is going to be called I'm going to call it a project request. Because maybe people need to just say, I think I need to have a new project about XYZ. And then after that request is submitted, then maybe it could go into SharePoint. It could potentially maybe become a whole project. But they start off just by having this one-way submittal of, I think I want a new project. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. So that takes me over to that forms interface. And I can go just decide what I want all my questions to be. So text, I'll just do this real quick. Name of project. And then I can even add little pictures to these too. And I think I showed that last time, but I could, I don't know, put project in here. And that is so cheesy. Wow. The project. That is, I love that. Got it. Oh man, I clicked got it and the whole dialogue went away. That's annoying. There we go. Add. You like that? Okay. So then that's required. And then I can say project start or project, yeah, start and project end goal, end date, goal. Is that what that's referred to? I don't think goal is the right word I'm using here for like official project management. Like what's the end date going to be? And then I've got project department. You can't default these to anything like dynamic, having to do with a logged in user or anything like that. It's just, yeah, this is what you get. You can't put parameters in here. That would be awesome. I would love it if you could at least have parameters where you could pass a parameter to your form. Then you could at least have, maybe start doing something slightly more complicated with it. And then you don't have people fields in here. So like for project manager, it could be just, you're just going to ask a text question. And if they type it correctly or spell it incorrectly, you have no way of controlling that. And you can also copy your question to, if it's a long question, if you want to do it again. Let's see. All right, so then we've got, I'll go ahead and, so that's saved already. And I'll give it another little theme here. That's so cheesy. That's a good one for a project, right? Okay, so that's my new theme. And there's no OK button. You just click the theme and then it's just there. All right, we talked about branching last time, so I'm not going to go into that, but you could say, if they say this, then ask this other question, that type of thing. All right, so now I've got my form created. So let's see what happens if I just, let's see, anyone can respond. I'll just say anyone in my organization. Sure, yeah, this will be fine. All right, because you don't want to limit it to only one response. All right, so I don't have to publish it or anything. I'm just going to close this tab. I'm going to go back to my modern page. So now I've got, it tells me the URL that it just took me to create that form. And all I have to do is click OK. So it opened a new tab. It had me create my form. And then I click OK over here in the form properties, and there it is. So if it was an existing form that I need to point to, I would need to go, the URL to it would need to be in here. So now it's thinking about it. And I think it's in there. Yeah, looks good. All right. Now this is for collecting responses. So go ahead and click OK. I'm not sure what's taking so long. I'm just going to close that and publish it. There it is. Ooh, that's gigantic. Yeah, probably if I would have put it in a web part zone, like on the right or something like that, it would be smaller. But yeah, and look at that, pink is a little weird. I don't remember having pink in my template. All right, so I published, and so let's go ahead and answer one of these. So not very creative, just test projects.
Laura, do you know offhand if, and this is just something I probably could look and figure out, but for multiple people to create a survey together, is there a way to, like, when you create one, to like let other people get in there and edit it, or?
Yeah, that's what this is that I'm showing you.
Okay, sorry.
That's exactly what I was just about to demo. So
all right.
So I could go fill, if I have another project request, I could go submit another response, and etc. So now it's been submitted. So now let's go over to form. I'm just going to refresh just this forms page. Create your group forms in Teams or SharePoint. See, that's where it was supposed to show. The next thing I was going to do is go over to Teams and just build one in there. So if that doesn't automatically show up as a group form, then we'll troubleshoot it. But I'm going to go over to Teams and go ahead and show what that looks like after I do one more thing in SharePoint. So there's one more thing I can do, is I can show the responses. So I'll go ahead and edit this page again. And I'm going to take project requests and see if I can like move it up like that. No, it still didn't make it any smaller. That's very ugly. All right. Oh, I think it moved it up above. Yeah, whatever. Okay. So I'll put the responses to it. So I'll just go to forms here. existing form, and I have to go, this is pretty awkward. This part is pretty awkward. So I have to go over to forms and get the URL, this thing, copy, and then go back over here. This is not going to be the easiest thing for like a typical business user. To be able to paste that web address in here. Let's see. Yeah. Awkward. Because that looks much, yeah, oh, okay, there it is. It showed up. Okay, I'm going to close this now. All right, so now if you want people to see the responses on the same page, you could, now I'll go ahead and publish this. So now I've got the questions and, filling out the form, but now I could just have them see this. In the real world, you wouldn't necessarily want to see the responses on the same page, but you could have a separate page where maybe just the people that are accepting the project requests, just a page for them where they can see the responses. And then that would just be a quick way for them to see what's going on. And they could also, of course, go to forms.microsoft.com and be able to go open it in Excel. Okay, so let's go over to, now that we've shown what that looks like in SharePoint, which seems kind of ugly, the way it just, you don't really have much control over like how gigantic it is on the page, it looks like. But let's go over to Teams and see what that looks like. And Bruno says, can you connect Google Forms or SurveyMonkey to SharePoint? Google Forms, oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I don't think that, it would depend on if Flow has I don't think Flow has Google Forms in it. I know Zapier does, but I don't think, if Flow had Google Forms connector, then you could do that, but I don't think that it does. Let's see. Deanne says, can this be a simple poll so the survey disappears after filling out the question and shows the responses? It's not going to disappear and show the responses in SharePoint. Let's go there. It actually looks a little different. So yeah, Carolyn, it depends on if there's a connector to Google Forms in Flow. Anyway, let's go. There are a couple of different options as to the way it looks in Teams. And we have this in our Teams training class, don't we, Joelle? Like the Teams training I did, didn't I do a Forms one? Maybe I didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I think at that point it was pretty new, though. It was still a little flaky.
Is that the one that I recorded like half of and then didn't finish? Or was that?
Yeah, because I think there was
so
like
then
an
it's
issue.
not actually out there. Yeah. Okay. Good times. So let's see. I've got all my teams over here. And I'll go ahead and, yes, Carolyn, you can use Google Sheets, but Google Forms would be a different connector. So maybe you could connect to Google Sheets, which would have the Google Forms responses in it, and then get that into SharePoint via Flow. That's possible. All right. These are some of my example teams here, and I'll go ahead and I'll say, this is our HR. For our field office has an HR channel in their team, and we'll go ahead and do a new click plus. Let me go back and show you what I'm clicking. So I'm in a channel. I click this plus button to add a new tab, and this is where I have this long list of great things I can pick from, and Forms is one of them. So now I can pick. Oh, Teams is asking me to authenticate. Hold on a second. Actually, I was already authenticated to Teams, but now it's saying, well, you're opening Forms within Teams, so we need to double check. Okay, so do I want to create oh, see, there it is, shared form that your team can edit and see results. So maybe when they said in that description on the shared forms, Joelle, that create it from SharePoint or Teams, Maybe they didn't mean a SharePoint old school team site. Maybe they meant like in here, or a SharePoint group connected team thing.
Yeah.
The new modern stuff. Okay, so this is going to be HR. I'm cracking myself up thinking of like some kind of HR form that you could have. Complaints.
HR benefit survey.
HR complaint form.
Complaint.
People want to submit HR complaints anonymously, probably. And you could have all kinds of fun categories for those. Anyway. All right. Post to the channel. Yeah, whatever. Okay. So I'm creating a new shared form now. That's what it looks like. Oh, thanks, Brad. Brad says, I believe SurveyMonkey has a connector. Uh-huh. Interesting. Yeah, that's different. So if SurveyMonkey has a connector, a thing in here, that doesn't necessarily, oh yeah, there it is. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna have a connector in Flow to be able to do something with that submitted data. Does that make sense? So like this tab, like SurveyMonkey thing, could just be you're just submitting things straight to SurveyMonkey, and SharePoint, even though it's showing it in Teams, it doesn't necessarily know anything about what you're doing with it and doesn't necessarily know the data. So
yeah, and I guess that's just probably the thing with Bruno. If you could just elaborate, or tell us a little bit more about what you're trying to accomplish, if you're trying to get the data or if you're just trying to link to the survey. I mean, that's kind of
true. Yeah, and those maybe you're not sure because those are actually completely different things than each other, like we're saying. So all right, so HR complaint form, subject of complaint, and that's a quick short one, and then description of HR. And then this one could be a long answer. And I could do category. I'm just gonna do this kind of quickly, and then reading. How bad was it? I'm terrible. Anyway, so all right. So then we have this HR form, and then we also have the responses. So see how it's got both here? And it also, again, has that open an Excel thing. All right, so this says edit HR complaint form. That's interesting, right? Now that I've created this HR complaint form, I'm going to go over to forms again and see if this shows up, and see if it shows up as a shared. I'm just gonna like click on something else here. But I'm gonna see if it shows up as a shared form. So let me refresh this. And there it is. Yay. So that's how you get things in group form. So people that are people can work on these and collaborate on them together, as opposed to it's just being my form and only I can work on it and only I can make changes to it. So group forms is a great idea, because otherwise everything's just siloed into each individual just only having forms that they created. So shared with me, I'll have to look into that. We're also going to talk about some of these other announcements that aren't necessarily showing in my tenant yet as well. So we'll dive into what that means too. All right, go back over to Teams. Now there are a couple of different ways that I can do this in here. I'll go to my HR complaint form, and I'm actually going to delete this tab. And I created the form, so the form still exists. The form didn't go anywhere. I'm just removing the tab that I had where I had added it. So I'm going to add it again, and I'll show you a couple of other options. So I'm going to add an existing form. Now, look at this. See, now I have more options down here. Do I want to collect responses, show results, or collaborate? So we'll go over some of these different ones. So I'm going to collect responses and hit save. So now when people go to this tab, they just have, hey, fill out just the form, and that's all it is. So let's see, dress code violation. Billy Bob wasn't up to dress code. Maybe he was wearing like a tank top to work or something. It was pretty bad. Okay, so it doesn't have, so you're just submitting it. It doesn't have anything, it doesn't show the answers right here. But let's go look at what some of those other ones look like. So I could have it so they're filling it out here, and I can rename this too because it's really long. So I can just say new HR complaint like that. So I can make it a little shorter. And then I can also go in here and, where did it go? Scrolling too fast. Existing form. So it's also, notice it's pointing out here which ones of these are personal versus this one that is a group form, right? Because all these other ones are just my form and I'm the only one that can put them on here or see them. Other people can fill them out, but I'm the only one that can work on the form. All right, so now I'm going to show the results. And this is going to say whether I want to create a web address that lets people click on that web address to go see the results. So now it's got results here. So now I've got new HR complaints, and then I've got results, and that shows, you know, people that answered this form. Let's go look at one more thing. I'm adding another tab, and I've got an existing form, and it's collaborate, and that is going to be questions and responses. Okay, so let's go look at what that looks like. I'm just going to call it forum collaborate. All right, and Joelle, I don't know how quick it would be to be able to go log into this. This is in my little Wonderlaura demo tenant, but I'm not sure if you even have access to this. But it would be interesting to see, just curiosity of what you can see and do in there. I know I didn't really give you much of a heads up on that.
Yeah, and I have issues with some of the Teams external stuff. So okay. I'll see if I can get in though, because I've tried. Right.
Okay, so then I've got these are like the little just notifications that have let the people in this channel know that I've added, you know, these tabs. But let's go look at forum collaborate. So I'll go ahead and so when I click in here, this is not answering a question. See, I'm not answering the question when I click it. I'm actually like editing the form itself. So I can see the questions, I can edit the questions, but I'm not filling it out from here. And again, of course, I can open it in Excel. View results just shows me. Okay, so when I click view results, that's the way to look at the results without having to open it in Excel. So view results and open in Excel are kind of two different ways to look at the results. So if I go back to this one, let's see what kind of settings we have too. If I have any settings, I don't really have, it doesn't really have settings of what you want this form to be or do. When you add it, that's where your settings are, whether you're saying whether you're submitting it or you're viewing results. But once you've put it on here, yeah, it's not, you can like basically send people a link to it, and you can have a conversation about the form, which would be kind of silly, but that's what you can do. All right, so basically using this plus to add a form in Teams is where you can have that form be presentable for people to be able to work on it. And then it's up to you whether they're filling it out or you're seeing results. And you could also do kind of the same thing in SharePoint, where you're showing the form for them to fill out, but then just the presentation of seeing the form, which looks much nicer, by the way, in Teams than it does in SharePoint. Just the presentation of seeing the form is completely different than where the responses are going, right? So you're no matter where people are when they go to this form, you could share a hyperlink to them with them, or have them go to the team, or have them go to the SharePoint site. They're all just getting this front end to be able to submit the data. So getting the responses, like we mentioned, there's a connector in Flow that lets you take those responses and do whatever you'd like to with them. Put them in a SharePoint list, put them in a SQL database, put them in a spreadsheet. I mean, they're already in a spreadsheet, but put them in like a specific spreadsheet in a specific way. You could do, like, the sky's the limit. There are hundreds of things you can do with it once you get the data into Flow and create use the Forms Flow connector that we talked about last time. All right, so I'm going to go out of Teams, and I'm just going to refresh this again. And recent group forms shared with me. I'm going to have to go look at that whole shared with me thing. Share. Oh yeah, there we go. Share to collaborate. So this project request, I'm going to share this with Joelle. I would only like people in my organization to do that. And then that is the way she is going to be able to go see it and use that and work on it and have it in form shared with me. I don't think it's going to automatically show in form shared with me until she actually goes to this, because I can't fathom how that works. Like, it doesn't know yet who I'm going to send this link to, right? But that's where she's going to be able to see her own forms, see forms that she's clicked on, that she sees that are shared with her, and then also see forms that we're collaborating on that we started from Teams. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. If you're working with SP Classic UI, is it possible to embed forms? I think so. Because look, you have this embed code, see? So you can use, on a classic page, you can just use this embed code right here and do just embed code and then just paste this in there. And you could also just email this link directly to somebody, and QR gives you a little scanny thing if you want to do that. It's pretty powerful, right? Let's see. Did I miss any other questions? Joelle, you're really quiet.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That was the one that I see.
All right. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the admin announcements, and we're going to I'll show you what you can do right now with Forms and Power Apps, which is not that much, but we'll go look at it. Okay, so we've got this, I'll put this link in the chat.
There's a question. What is the best way to mention a file inside the survey using MS Forms? Link to it? Any attachment capabilities?
Mention a file? There isn't, as part of the question?
I think it probably means can they attach a file? Like the person filling it out.
Person filling it out? No, there isn't. That doesn't exist. This is only just a table of data. There's no file. This isn't like a document library where you're going to be able to upload anything. It's just basically text and dates and number responses, just like a SharePoint list concept would be, but with no attachments. I can look to see if let me just double check. Yeah, see, none of these are even anything remotely having to do with being able to put a file in here. So if you wanted to have some kind of file, you'd actually have to upload it somewhere else and just use the text box and have them paste the hyperlink to it. That's very rudimentary. So that doesn't exist. It's not built in. All right, so what I was going to say, and I put a link to this in Slack, is that we have some new administrator controls. These don't exist yet in my tenant. So I'll show you how you would go to it, but it doesn't exist. So it would be go to admin, go to settings, services and add-ins, and go to forms. And so this is where it is not yet. These new settings do not exist yet. Right now, it's just whether or not people in my organization can share and edit, link a summary of responses to formal external users. All right. But these are the new controls that are coming up soon that are rolling out now that you'll see in your tenant fairly soon. So you can send and collect responses. And this is a global setting. This is for Microsoft Forms everywhere in your organization. Whether people can collaborate on forms, share them as a template, or share form result summaries. So that gives you the ability to, and that's external sharing. So look at the header here, external sharing. So all these things that you can do internally, but this is where you're controlling whether or not people can do those things externally. Yeah, so that's what's coming up soon. And then this other post, I'll just copy that in here too. There we go. And I put those both in the general tab, by the way. All right. Okay, so this is, okay, so Forms in Excel, this doesn't exist yet in my Excel or in my tenant, or however that rolls out. I think it rolls out as part of your Excel software. But where you're supposedly going to see it is, and I may as well just not try and demo that in Excel since it doesn't exist yet. But where you're going to see it is a Forms. And I love the way this just keeps moving. That's nice. Forms for Excel. Forms for Excel is going to be right here. And this itself isn't new, but the concept that the new button in Excel, that's what's new. So the new button on the Home tab in Excel that says Forms. Will says, any way to embed HTML snippet in a form? No, it looks like it's just either text or more text, like expanded text. So it's still pretty rudimentary. So it's everything about forms is still they've added some capabilities, but just in general, it's pretty rudimentary. You're not going to get anywhere near what you get with even SharePoint lists. Especially, you're not going to get, it's nothing like InfoPath or Power Apps. It's got pros and cons. So the huge thing about it is anybody, you can make this so you can send this to external people and they can submit surveys or questions or fill out some sort of requests from wherever they happen to be. That's one of the bonuses. And just the fact that it's easy to use and easy to embed. But the capabilities as far as a form product is not much. So Forms for Excel is, again, it's going to be this new button here on the Home tab in Excel. And this is what we just demoed with Forms in Teams, which is not brand new. It's been out there for at least a couple of months. And then we talked about the Forms web part, where that's what I demoed, where you can go in there and let people submit forms. And then it says find group forms in Portal, the forms you've created in Teams or SharePoint team sites that belongs this sentence doesn't even make sense. Microsoft. So recent group form is going to basically, like we showed you when we created it in Teams, that's where it showed. All right. So those are the new announcements that have been made. Forms for Excel, the administrative settings, and having that new button in Excel, and just a couple of, it looks like they changed the interface just slightly, like it looks kind of more friendly and modern, and it's just really, really easy to use. So think about just typical business users, just basics, and not having something too complicated that they have to understand, and just be able to quickly put together, like, SurveyMonkey. Quickly put together some questions and collect the responses. Bruno says, can you clean up the metrics data before launching the form? Oh, I believe so. Yeah, I think I saw It's a good question, Bruno. I think I saw something about cleaning the responses, clearing it or something like that. I think I saw that. Crap, where was that? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was in there. Maybe not. Help me out here. If anybody notices, go ahead and let Bruno know. Oh, Valerie says, I like using forms for Excel better because you can download a refreshable Excel workbook. So that gives you an actual, just a specific workbook to use, and just the data refreshes, kind of like Google Forms and Google Sheets, as opposed to clicking open in Excel and having it generate an Excel spreadsheet just on the fly. And it's just, yeah.
Laura, I think it's under the responses tab.
Oh, the responses tab. View results, and then delete response is one. So can I only delete one response at a time?
I think if you go, see, your screen's delayed for me,
yeah,
so it's hard for me to know what you're clicking on.
I found it.
Okay, good.
Okay, so you have to go to the responses tab first and delete all responses. And I like this print summary. That's pretty cool. So that actually brings up just a preview, just straight to your printer of printing the summary of what all the responses are. That's nice, again, for those typical, making it easy for those business users. Thanks, Fausto, for uploading the screenshot. That's awesome. Okay. Okay, so now let's go into Power Apps. Power Apps. I'm not tired of Power Apps at all. Power Apps has been fun. We've been like really deep diving into just so much stuff in the past, especially just in the past few weeks. I'm just going to create a blank something or other here just to show you the forms thing. Forms connector. All right, and I'll go to view data sources, add a data source, and forms is going to be one. See, okay, so you actually have to create the connector to forms first before it will just show here. So you would do new connection and you would pick Microsoft Forms. You have to scroll down all the way to it. There's so many connectors now, y'all. Anyway, you go pick it, and then you'd have this connector. Now notice this little, it says it's in preview. That's what that little indicator is telling you. So now I've got a forms as a data source. So now let's just go see what it is going to give me. I'll just stick a gallery on here. And what do I want to show in my gallery? I'm going to do, let's see, forms, Microsoft Forms dot list forms. And it's going to list all my forms. Let's see. List all my forms titles. So now I got to go I'll just pick this template really quick. Look at that. Oh, good, Brad. I agree. It's a lot of fun. So there are my forms. So now I've got a list of all the forms it's the same list of forms that I see over in when I'm looking at, when I go to forms.microsoft.com. So then what else do I want to see about this form? Let's see, maybe I'll just go insert a label here and just kind of play with some stuff. So forms, Microsoft Forms dot get questions. So it's going to say get questions about which form. I think it's going to be, it says I need the form ID. Do I have a form ID? Let me see. This item dot. All it has is title and is. Oh, I know what I did. Okay, hold on. There we go. I was only putting the title in my data source. So this item dot. This is definitely part of the demo that I did not like plan the demo out there. Okay, so now I can get the ID. All right, so if I want to have a list of questions in a form, I can't put that in a label because it's going to be a list of stuff. So what I need is what I can do is I can take these and expand like each of these out bigger in my gallery, because a list of questions is going to be like a gallery inside of a gallery, right? So I'll insert another gallery. And I'm going to say my items for this gallery are going to be Microsoft Forms dot get questions. And then the ID is whatever ID I'm in right now. Questions ID. This property expect table values. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it wants the ID of the form, and I'm giving it an ID, but it doesn't like that ID. That's fine. Okay, let me put this is a mess, huh? Let me make this smaller. That template that I picked is like really messy. There, I'll just say blank. Okay, so that is messy too. All right, so it wants to have the ID of a particular form. Let's just see what this form's ID is real quick. I'll insert a label. I'm going to say this item dot ID. All right, so this is the big, long, ugly, cryptic ID. And then this thing down here is my subtable that I added. So I'm going to say, take that thing. I want to take that value and just like copy it. There we go. It's supposed to just work. See, this is one of those, like it said, it's in preview. So it's very messy. And it's not really thought through. See, I even put an ID in there and it doesn't like it. Yeah. All right, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, so it's in preview. So the way the connectors work in here and what they do is going to be pretty limited. But I'll show you just the handful of things that it does give you. I'll just put a label here and I'll just say Microsoft Forms. So this is not filling out Microsoft Forms in a Power App at all. That's not what this is. This is, you're right, Sandy. I probably should have just tried that. Let me just try that. I didn't type this item.id. This item, let's see. Microsoft Forms dot get questions dot ID. No, see, it doesn't like the ID for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. It usually does. So you can do the same thing actually in Planner. In Planner, you show all the plans, you can show all the buckets in the plans, you can show like assigned tasks and things like that from within the Power App, and it actually works, but Forms is still kind of rough. So what I was just going to show you real quick is it has get questions, delete from form webhook, I'm not sure what that means, get form responses by ID, and we already did list forms. So you could see the responses. If you do response by ID, you have to have the form ID and the response ID. So, you have to figure out how you're going to obtain that information. But the connector that exists in Power Apps is really just for tapping into getting information about what the forms are and what the responses are to do something in your Power App with it or display it. So that is not much to that, but I'll go ahead and go back to, but they're working on it, so maybe it'll be more powerful. Back to here. All right, so just to, let's see, any last questions? I know it kind of ended with a wah wah. Yeah, this is funny. All right, so that, yeah. I'll go ahead and, so next week, Joelle and I are going to be very busy teaching our 4-day Power Apps class, which we're very excited about. We've gotten multiple queries every day wanting people saying, can I just one more? Can you just let one more person in? Sorry, it's full. We have 30 people. But we created a new March class. So the week of March 26th, we're having another 4-day Power Apps class. So I encourage you to sign up for that if you're interested. And but next week we're not having Power Hour because we're going to be in the middle of our class. But we'll look forward to having one again once that's over. And then also there's a little ideas channel in Slack that you can submit your ideas and for Power Hour, what you think your topic should be. So yeah. Oh, thanks, Beth. Yeah, we're excited too. And Apple. Thanks, Larry. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming, and I hope you have a good week. And that's over and out.